Pittsburgh Steeler fans, welcome to this week's episode of Steelers Touch Down Under. I'm Matt Peverell, joined by my co-host as always, Marky Davison. Actually, I'm more joining you because I've been off for a couple of weeks. How you going, mate?
Yeah, pretty good. I was going to say, how many weeks you been off? Like about 2 weeks, or
We've had them separated by one show. So
right, so you've been back on the injured reserve. They've taken back up. You've gone back to the practice squad. Where's your head at?
I don't come on the practice squad. I'm like a first round draft pick. I come back straight into the team, slot straight back in, Devin Bush styles. Talk about the ego there, right?
Exactly.
But no, look, I appreciate the guys that have stepped in. Both absences, obviously, I did have the show in between. But yeah, had some surgery Friday, a week ago, and still recovering a little bit from that. So, when you have surgery around the jaw, mouth area, it's a bit hard to jump on a podcast a couple of days afterwards. So anyway, all will be good. Glad to be back with everyone. Appreciate, Bad stepping in last week and you stepping up, Mark, as well. So I really appreciate it. But yeah, been an interesting Steelers week. We come into this Seahawks game, at least we're back on the winning streak. And I think, Mark, you and I had sort of talked, and, the title of today's show, we've got to keep it clean for the article side of things and for the audio and platform side of things. But for us, like when Mark and I were talking out there, listeners, we were sort of thinking the Steelers, it's like that classic song, Taking Care of Business. And the Steelers, the rest of the season now needs to be taking care of business every game, every way. We really, and when we say that, and we're going to talk about that through today's show, we don't mean just, TJ Watt's got to get a sack and Najee's got to, run between the tackles and get first downs. And, Chase Claypool can't drop a ball and Big Ben's got to not throw some interceptions. It means going into each game like the Seahawks this week, going and beating Geno Smith. It means when we go and play the Titans in a few weeks' time, stopping Derrick Henry, not throwing the ball, Tyrann Mathieu's way with stupid passes, when they play the Chiefs. It means shutting down Lamar Jackson when they play the Ravens. So we're not going to talk about the whole season today, but we are going to talk about the Seahawks game. But that's the attitude that Mark and I, really think the Steelers need to go down. And I think it's something we're going to track over the next few weeks as well, or at least the rest of the season potentially, is are the Steelers taking care of business when we get into the bye week next week as well? I think that's probably going to be a big theme for us, Mark. And I know you did the quarterly business review with Bad last week. That was some awesome content. So I think we can really start to look at this from a lens of, well, when we reflect on the previous week's game, did they take care of business? And that's the key question. But, Mark, you did that quarterly business review last week with Bad. And, then you watched the game against the Broncos. Did they take care of business?
Yeah, I reckon they did. We got a 100-yard rusher. As Jeffrey Benedict says, welcome back, mate. Cheers, Jeff. Yeah, I reckon that's the game. I just think we played a lot better. On offense, we played so much better. Slinging the ball to DJ down the sideline. Claypool really stepped up. Najee's really getting going now. They're just, the only thing really that they came back within 8 points and a chance to go to overtime if they get the 2-point conversion. Now, that didn't happen, but that's the way how football works. But we're up by, I think, 16 points or 14 points into the fourth quarter. Maybe we should have finished that game and not let them come back in. But overall, I was pretty happy with how that the team played last week. And, so many people in the NFL keep counting us out, but the best, it's got to do you can't keep going back and forth like a roller coaster up and down saying, we're going to, fire Big Ben, fire Tomlin the next week. We love Tomlin. We love Big Ben. Like for me, if I could say anything really, you just got to wait until the season is finished, I think, or maybe until week 10 or week 12. If we are going really bad and we're 2 and whatever, or 3 and whatever, then we make some judgments. But heading into 3 straight losses, yes, it was bad, but then we come back with such a great win, like a convincing win, a team win. JuJu went down, which really sucks. Like that's a really big injury for the Steelers. But in reality, like you've got to watch this team the whole season. And like I see people out there saying, who are we going to draft next year? I don't care who we draft next year. Like I'm watching the game today. We're doing this season, and we've got to take care of business, like you say, every day. You don't think about taking care of business in 2022, 2023 just yet. That's not in our vision. I enjoyed the game. I don't know about you, but did you like see that they made progress like a little bit forward?
Yeah, so I think I will like. I think we changed it a little bit there. Like, and obviously, I've got to show another show on BTSC called The War Room, where we do look at 2022 and 2023 in draft picks. But what I would say is the attitude of going, oh, the Steelers have lost like 4 games, and then we're going to get like the fifth draft pick in the draft, which means on today we're going to be able to draft. Let's say it's the Malik out of Liberty, the quarterback, right? No. Who knows what's going to happen over the next 8 weeks? He might throw 1 billion interceptions, or he might get injured in the whatever bowl game or what have you, right? So you got to look at it, and you can't just go, right, the Steelers are going to lose this season. That means we're going to get a top 5, top 10 pick. We're going to be able to draft this player. You don't know what that player is going to do. You don't know who's going to get injured. You don't know who's going to get retired. You don't know who could even be, probably won't, but traded hypothetically in the next couple of weeks. So I think you do have to look at the season holistically. You do have to get to the season end. And also, look at where we were last year. Last year, we were 11-0, thinking this team was fantastic. And look what we did down the stretch, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and we have always said, and I think everyone on the platform of Behind the Steel Curtain has said it as well, whether it's, in the written form or audio through YouTube shows and podcasts, because Behind the Steel Curtain is your one-stop shop for all things Pittsburgh Steelers, everyone has said it's the last 6 to 8 games of the season that are really important this year when you look at who we play, the amount of divisional games that we have. So, I agree. You've got to take the season as it comes. I still think you do have to, for franchise building, look forward. But as a fan, you do, for the most part, have to sit there and you got to let the team go through the highs and lows of the season. This isn't no, I don't think anyone was under any illusions that this isn't a 17-0 team, because they're not. You look at where we've developed and you look at the season we've come off. That's not going to happen. So I agree with you. But when you talk about last week's game, I mean, yeah, it was good for me. I started a little bit late on it because I was a lot jacked up with all the painkillers. But I would say that it was definitely a game where you felt a lot more confident. And it was funny. I heard Dave Schofield talk during the week about the atmosphere that he felt at the game. And I think I think he talked about it on his Stat Geek show, which was really good this week. You kind of felt that through the TV, I kind of thought, like you sort of saw that translate. So, I felt they felt they're a bit more confident. I definitely felt that Big Ben had more time to throw, and he did. I just felt that the Steelers are a bit more put together. What I would say, though, and I would caution this, which is why I'm glad we're going up against a, damaged, let's say, Seahawks team this week, and then we go into a bye. Whilst I did think they were going to definitely get the win, there are parts of that game that I thought, even though that they played a lot better, it was probably their best overall performance this season, because the Bills, it did come down to that special team play. It was heavily defense. The offense was a bit average that game, right? I do think, though, if you peg the play against the Broncos to some of their previous seasons' performances where they've won, it was on that lower tier of performance. Like, they have to keep improving is what I'm saying, basically. Like, I don't think they can expect to just be able to do what they did last week and beat the good teams. They got to play better than that as well.
That's true, though, but they looked better than the previous week.
Without a doubt.
So that's like, I know what you're saying, that maybe they weren't as good as last year's team. But with the improvement of the Bengals and the Packers game, they looked like 10 times better. And it all comes down to, with Najee running this football, and we probably will get into this a little bit too. And this is the question that everyone's trying to figure out: who is a number 2 running back? We haven't got a number 2 running back, or no one's stepping up. But with Najee getting
I will interrupt you there. I think we do, and I think it's Anthony McFarland Jr. and we just need to get him back.
Well, hopefully he can do some good things, because what we're seeing out of Ballage and Snell, you might as well tie their feet together and run them at the same time and become like an offensive lineman, because they're not really doing anything, are they? And you're on the National Football League, and I'll talk about Snell later, but you just got to do something. You have to, Snell made those runs near the end, but I think overall, like this team and the way the offense played and how the calls were played, we just played a lot better overall. And that's the easiest thing to say about it. Like, it's not the most fanciest word, but we played better. That's all I can really like. We all felt it. You're right. We all felt it from home. You and I in Australia, we felt the chemistry and the fans going off over there. It's like throwing that ball to DJ, 50 yards, 7 up, and it just TJ Watt getting in the backfield, didn't get a sack, but he got that tackle around the legs. Like there are certain plays that if we can win this game, imagine what if we keep playing that same way and then Highsmith steps up or, Minka finally gets a pick, even though Minka at the moment, is a missile. He's a missile down in the run game. So I'm really impressed. I was impressed with the game. You don't want to call it a must win because it's such a long season. You could lose even this week and then continue to, in 4 or 5 games go on a streak or whatever. So it's not a must win, but it's a game that if we win this week, Matty, like 3-3, heading into the bye, like I know we have like a few special things coming up with the bye and stuff, but I'm pretty excited for the Browns game, to be honest. Like we have this game, yeah, we got the Seahawks, can't overlook them, take care of business, but that Browns
that's what I was going to say. Taking care of business is a harder challenge than what you think it is, right? It's easy to look forward. I'm looking forward at like 2022, 2023 from draft picks, and you're looking forward to the Browns game.
It's going to be a good game though. Like I know it's 1 p.m.
Who knows where the Browns? Like again, who knows where the Browns are going to be? By that stage.
Yeah.
So you gotta really, it's pretty. Everything sort of changes. Like they're going to play the Cardinals. The Cardinals, I think, are going to beat them. Then they go up against the Broncos. Who knows what the Broncos are going to do from a defensive perspective? Like the Browns could go in having dropped, 3 games on the trot.
They easily. The Denver could. Denver's not a bad football team. Let's put it that way as well. They're not that bad of a football team. We just played them really well. I think we took care of Von Miller and those kind of guys. And Big Ben was held upright and 2 touchdowns, and he threw for 15 for 25 receptions. Like that was just a solid game. I think that they had played with passion. And JuJu went out, which really sucks. I don't know if you have any comments on JuJu, but that sucks. That's going to hurt us.
Yeah, I think. Look, JuJu, I don't know if you saw that clip of him that's doing the rounds on social media about a passionate player he is. Loved JuJu, wanted him back, talked about, how the Steelers could keep him, loved that we were able to do that. I think it was really unfair that he is injured. I don't know, like a lot of people no, he's not going to stick with the Steelers. It's a hard one. Even if you play, I know that Madden's very different to real life, but even if you play Madden, you sit there and you get JuJu come off contract, then you get Johnson, then you get Claypool. What are you going to do? Because paying for all 3 hurts you, right? Even in a Madden sense, it hurts you in real life in terms of what you can do with the salary cap. So I think, with JuJu, I'd love to see him stay. And if he's only going to charge them a couple extra million more than what Washington would to keep, I think there's something about the culture, the leadership, what have you. Like, is he a modern day, Hines Ward, not in terms of the play that he does, but, and I do think he blocks pretty well, but for a wide receiver, but, is he that sort of talisman in the wide receiver room that you can really build a culture around from that perspective? Some people say no with the TikTok and what have you, but he's a modern player. Like, I think this season you've seen a mature approach. He's gotten bigger and stronger each off season as well. He takes it extremely seriously. So, I think really sad with JuJu. I'm really going to hate to see him on another team. I'm very interested to see what some of our colleagues, and particularly if Jeffrey Benedict's still in the live chat as well, what he thinks about this. But I hate saying this. I wonder what JuJu would look like, though. And I know we talked about his fit with the Ravens, but at the Patriots, I just wonder with him. Something tells me I can see a bit of a fit there, right? So. And in what they want to do. And I would hate to see that. I would hate to see JuJu in any other uniform from that perspective. But, we do have DJ, we do have Claypool. Claypool needs to be able to develop into a top wide receiver. I think as well, there's some good wide receivers, and I talked a lot about them, some of them on War Room this week. There's some great wide receivers coming through. And also, next year you've got Kevin Colbert in what's technically his last contracted draft. Do you think Kelvin Colbert is going to go into retirement, assuming that he is? You think he's going to go in there and not draft another gun wide receiver in the 3rd or the 4th round? Of course he's going to leave a legacy there with that. So, how are you going to keep all these guys? Yeah, and Jeffrey says what I'm thinking as well. You know, he'd work in the Patriots system. They do, you know, Haley-like stuff. He'd fit well. Yeah, thought so. So, and Jeffrey says a lot more technically than I'm ever going to put it. But I really see a fit there with him and some of the different things that they do and the short to medium term passing as well. So yeah, I guess wrapping up, Mark, because I've spoken for about 3 minutes to answer your question.
All right, mate.
It's sad. It's sad to lose JuJu. I think it clearly hurts Ben. I would prefer they go down the Washington route. I'd prefer they go down the giving the ball to Freiermuth route, giving the ball to Najee in the passing game as well. If they can get someone, you know, as from that perspective, you know, playing to the wide receivers from a developmental perspective. Everyone knows I'm not the biggest fan of Ray. I don't want to see him just ultimately cover a lot of those pieces, and they've got to find a way to work Freiermuth in. I know Jeff was saying this could be the breakout game, but they've got to figure it out with him because, like, it's untapped potential, you know.
Do you know what also has untapped potential? Is our mate Shield 91.
That's it, mate.
Oh, there it goes with a $5 super chat. Hey, mates, have my marathon on the morning or this morning. Saving the show so you can join me. I butchered that. What am I reading? Saving the show so you can join me.
He's basically jumping in to say he's saving the show to listen to during his marathon tomorrow.
All right. So do you want it to give you like a pump up 2 minutes while you're running?
That's right.
All right. Do you want to start, Matty? You start with a 2 minute pump up.
No, you start.
All right. So Shield, you know, you're already running down. What are you running, mate? You're running right now on 10 kilometers, which is about 14 miles. You got to think, how bad do you want this? How bad do you want this win? You see a person in front of you. You know, he's about 100 yards, but you got to think, how do you get in front? If he got there, you can get there. You got to keep running, and when you come second, you still want to become first. Here we go, Steelers. Here we go, Shield 91. Let's do it for you, mate. Let's do it for the country. Let's do it for America. Let's do it for Australia. Wish you luck, mate. All the best.
Love it. I love it. I don't know if I don't know like what I can say about more than that. That was great, Mark. Except I think I would say I think 10 kilometers is a lot less than 14 miles when you do the conversion. But you know what, Shield? You're running a marathon, right? And even though a marathon is 42 kilometers and however many miles that is, I'm not going to make the same mistake of trying to calculate that on the fly. Sorry, Marky D, just going to throw a bit of shade your way. But what I would say, let's keep it with football, Shield. Let's keep it with football. You're about to go into the biggest couple of hours of your marathon life. You may even crumble, but inch by inch, play by play, till you're finished, you're going to be in hell. You're going to be in hell, Shield. And you can stay there and you can get the crap kicked out of you, or you can fight your way back and you can get a good time. So, you know, just like they say in any given Sunday, a marathon, just like life, is all about the inches. So you need to fight for every inch. You got to fight for every yard, every meter, every mile, every kilometer, whatever you're going to measure this in, Shield. Just keep going, mate. And then as my athletics coach used to say, you know, he used to say, Matt, whether you're doing a 100-meter sprint or whether you're doing, I used to do 3K and 10K runs and the mile as well. He used to say, you just got to keep chipping away, right? You got to keep chipping away. You got to maintain that pace. You know, in a marathon, you're going to have hurdles and go up and down, but you also want to finish strong too, right? You really want to finish strong. So, as Mark said, focus on each guy in front of you with the shirt they've got, and you just want to keep a couple and beat a couple of them, even if you're pushing yourself, but don't overdo it at the start. The amount of people I've seen overdo it because everyone watches the first kilometer, you don't want to do that.
Stuff that. Overdo it. Imagine they're all Bengals fans or Bengals players and run past every single one of them, because we all know those runners in that field, that they're all Bengals fans, and we all know they're losers. You're not a loser, Shield. You're a real man. You're a real Steeler. You got to go out there and pass every single Bengal. All right.
Yeah. And as this show says, you got to take care of business every step of the way. All right. Let's keep going, Mark. Look, I think I really want to get into the Seahawks. I really want to get into slinging and the slang as well. I sort of skipped over, you know, some of that with Bad last week. Don't need to hear that accent too often. I think we're better to stick to beehives and sapphires, you know, from that perspective, but that's all right. Just going to throw a bit of shade Dad's way. Nah, just kidding, Dad. You do it right. But Mark, BTSC Manly Awards, we've continued them as well. How are things traveling on that front?
All right, so with the Manly Awards, we have original 3 points for the best play, 2 points for second best, and 1 point for first. I'll start with you, Matty. Who is your number 3 points for last week's game?
Yeah, 3 points. You can't go past Najee Harris. I mean, you look at the performance out of him last week. You look at what he was able to do. And I know a lot of that leans on the offensive line, but at the end of the day, he is a rookie. Pardon me. He's a rookie running back. He's got to still learn to capitalize on those different things. I think he did it. I honestly think when it comes to Najee, it's like what I said with Freeman. The phrase is untapped potential there. And the Steelers are trying to tap into that, but I think we're starting to scratch the surface of what he can do. So if he can, and which is what I'm really excited about, right? You've only taken, 5 games now to get to a point where you're seeing 20 or 30 yards receiving with about 120 yards of rushing. If we can get this to somewhere between the 100 yards rushing, 125 yards rushing, more like 50 yards in receptions, from the receiving side of the offensive play, we start to get Najee into this sort of run, leaning heavily more to the run, but sort of Kamara style, contribution to the offense. We start getting a contribution closer to what Le'Veon Bell was doing. Excited for that. But equally as much as everyone's sitting there going, we've got to get the ball more to Najee in the receiving game and, in the passing game, we've got to let him keep building. We are only through 5 games of this season. It's his rookie year. I'm a little bit worried about the mileage. So I would really like to see, as you said earlier in this show when we talked about, Ballage and we talked about, and Mark, you're laughing because you said to me you wanted this to be snappy, and I'm falling for the trap of getting into it. But what I'm going to say is, as much as we wanted, but you and I have talked about Ballage and Snell not doing enough. I do think when they get McFarland Jr. back, they've got to ease the pressure off him, or he won't be 3 points week in, week out. He might be no points because he might not be playing.
Yep, we don't want that. But I was laughing at Brian Brown's comment here on YouTube. There are no Esker losers in a marathon. No, there are not. But there are salty Bengal fans that Shield 91 needs to run past. I've got 3 points this week.
And there are people that will stink like the Browns.
Oh yeah, big time. That makes you run harder past them.
It's funny how BO spurs you on.
I don't know. Okay, look, I need to segue from that. So let's go right into Chase Claypool. Chase Claypool for me, 3 points. He played outstanding. Let's be honest. He played outstanding football, even near the end when they were going for that drive in the last 4 minutes. Not too sure if many people talked about it, but there was a certain first down he got, which created more time off the clock. Chase, it's your team now, mate. It's yours and Deontay's team, really. You're really stepping up. You played great across the middle there. You went, that touchdown was amazing for me. And you might even have, I don't know if you have two for him, but,
Chase for me was... there, Mark. Do you think he played better than Deontay Johnson?
Well, DJ caught two receptions, right, for 2 passes. So he's only targeted twice, though.
That's my point. 72 yards. Look, I'm not saying that Claypool had a bad game. I love Chase Claypool. I'm not a Chase Claypool hater. I thought the same thing when I got off the game, not from necessarily the points perspective, but I thought, as you were rightly pointing out, like he stepped up, no JuJu, needs to start being the number 1 wide receiver, played like a number 1 wide receiver. But yeah, I'm not trying to be a hater. I'm not trying to be that Steelers fan that hates when someone does something good in tall poppy syndrome. I wonder, probably the question better to have is, because Claypool did have a great game, who do you think at the moment, 5 games in, is having a better season? Is it DJ or is it Claypool?
Well, if DJ is actually watching this podcast, I believe it is Claypool. Claypool is outstanding, DJ. You need to step up. You really need to do something. I'm sick of seeing 40-yard touchdowns. I want to see 60-yard touchdowns, DJ. All right, mate. You can't compare them, can you? Like, they're playing good for us. That's what we want out of our team. They're playing really good. Who is your second point?
Yeah, so I do agree with you with that as well. I like that. So the second one for me is Minka. I mean, involved in 10 tackles, 1 tackle for a loss, as you talked about the missile sort of part of it. Being asked to do different things. I think when you get guys like a Trey Norwood, you bring in guys like Killebrew, I'm interested to see what Kyle Joseph can do. And for all the Madden players out there, he's very helpful in this team. I'm having a crazy season with him, but entwined into the lineup, particularly at the slot corner where I'm intertwining him. But look, I think with Minka as well, he did the tough stuff last week, and that's what I really like to see. And the thing for me that I said, and this can go back a good 12 months almost, really, is that you've got to with Minka. He does miss a few tackles, and that can happen when someone blows coverage and he's got to come in and do something. That can be the way it goes. For someone in that free safety position, but what I would say as well is that last week he only missed like 9% of those. And I think that's a really good place to be when you're making that many tackles as well, and the way he's got to be involved. And he's going after and chasing things when coverage is blowing, when he's sitting back. And I think Terrell Edmonds is having a really good season as well, which shows that Minka, maybe doing some of the tougher stuff as well. Also with Minka, we know that quarterbacks don't favor him. So yeah, for me, I just thought Minka, as I said a couple of weeks ago when I gave him the Manly Award for stepping up and what have you, and not being a prima donna about what he's doing in the stat lines, he's just contributing there in ways you don't always see. And in a team, when you've had different guys in and out of the defense, you want, players of his caliber to step up, and he's stepping up. And again, I think he embodies this taking care of business every game mentality.
Yeah, 100%. And to your point as well, he's going to miss tackles, man. Like we're playing football. We're not playing, one bit of paper versus another bit of paper. Like who's the best here and there. We're playing actual football.
Yeah.
So you're going to miss tackles. My guy for number 2, we talked about him, and he's a star. We know how he is. I won't talk about him yet again. Najee Harris for me gets 2 points. So that's he's actually leading our standings. Who was your number 1 point for the overall game?
Yeah, so my number 1 was Joe Schobert. I thought Joe Schobert had a really good game, or his best game so far. And that's not a unique take. I guess other BTSC shows have covered that this week. But, he allowed, only 60% completions from the passing side of the football. I think he had 5 tackles. He had a pass defense. I just thought he was starting to intertwine himself really well. And I think that takes pressure off, takes pressure off a Bush to a degree there. And, I think that's what you really wanted to see out of him, after, a few weeks of getting intertwined into the defense. So, yeah, I was just really happy with what Schobert, contributed there. And looking forward to see how we can continue to use him. And the biggest thing I will say is, and, I don't know necessarily who's covered this completely across behind the steel curtain or not, but I said this a few weeks back when Devin Bush got that sack. He was against it was either Burrow or it was Derek Carr. So I'm a little bit confused there. But you're seeing Devin Bush, to me, rush the quarterback a lot more than what I feel like you saw. Obviously, last year he got injured, but even those 5 games before that and before. And I think it's because they've got someone like Joe Schobert that can step into the pass coverage as well. So, and I'd said that going into the season. I think it was that bye week before. Remember, I sat here and said, I want to see Devin Bush be able to rush the quarterback more. So the fact that we're seeing that, to me, says that Joe Schobert is a real benefit to this defense. And I think, as I say, he had a really good game last week, his best game so far. So it's important to give him the 1 point.
No, I agree. He had a really great game. There was one good tackle by Schobert as well, that he was just in the backfield straight away. And I was like, yeah, he's starting to learn this. He's starting to learn this defense. He's starting to really, starting to get it. For me, my 1 point to wrap up these awards here. My 1 point is Henry Mondeau. You have to give that guy props. He made an amazing spin move. He's playing better on the D-line. And that sack was just a great tackle. He got him by the bootlaces, and it wasn't called a penalty. Thank goodness. It was just good to see him, and I think that's the first point that he's received in our standing. So overall, through what are we in now? Far out, this season's going crazy. 5 weeks. Najee, in this, I want you to hear your comments on this. So Najee is 23 points, leading first. TJ Watt is second on 14 points, and Cameron Hayward 13 on third. What are your thoughts on Najee? Is he our best player so far?
This season?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's really up there, isn't he? I still think Devin. To me, Devin Bush is like he's so integral in this team, right? I think he allows your guys on the defensive line to do what they do. I think he allows the secondary to do particular pieces as well. Allows Hayden to really get to that football. I would say from the stat line perspective, yes, Najee. But if you look beyond and you look at some of those PFF stats that are questioned at times, Cam Hayward to me is still the MVP on this team so far. Like without Cam Hayward, we've won. We'd be lucky to have won one game. What he did in week 1 was pretty special, and what he's done throughout the rest of the season without Alualu. So, and he is integral in how a Henry Mondo or a Wormley or Davis or whoever else. Well, I mean, Davison next has injured his knee, but whoever else on that defensive line is stepping up. Without Cam Hayward, we're nowhere. So,
yeah, I agree. Do you want to go into the last of our 3 awards just quickly before our break?
Yeah, definitely. So Manly award for me was James Pierre. I think the way he responded with that interception, I love that. Dante Moncrief award is clearly a Keller for the dunce of the week. He's probably the dunce of the season since he came to the team. Is Keller Witherspoon. I'm not going to go into, Jeff said everything that needed to be said on that, but right now, as someone that previews the draft, to a degree each week on Steelers War Room, I'm sitting there going, what are we doing with those picks, right? And now in a position where we can't play Joe Haig. And I think, you look at why we caught the Dante Moncrief Dunce of the Week award, and he's like Dante Moncrief 2.0. Like, at least Dante Moncrief got on the field. Keller Witherspoon doesn't even get on the field, so he's Dunce of the Week for me. And then when I talk about the coach, I mean, you got to go Adrian Clem, right? The offensive line stepped up, and whether it's to him or it's the players finally listening and understanding and putting it all together, and it's Clem. So,
for mine, my Manly award was Ray. He made a massive tackle, and that was going to be an interception. Big Ben could have thrown 3 interceptions this game. He saved one by laying his body on the line and hitting that offensive line guy. Now, the offensive line guy got hurt, so the tackle might have been head-to-head, but that's in the past. My coach was Canada. He much better game plan. We all see it. That's one of the reasons why we won. And my dunce this week to end this segment is Benny Snell. Yes, you got 4 carries for 20 yards, 5 average or whatever. However, you're just not doing anything. You have to step it up. I'm sick of hearing Benny Snell football. There needs to be a point where we need a second running back. And we might touch into that in part 2. Who was it? What you said before is it Ant Mac? But Benny Snell is my dunce this week, Matty. That's a wrap. Here we go, Steelers.
And with that, we'll go to a break here on Steelers Touch Down Under. Join us for part 2. We're going to have all the good stuff, all the juicy stuff, previewing the Seahawks, slinging the slang, punts of the week, audience Q&A. Going to be a bumper next half hour of the show. If you're on the audio side, flick over to part 2. If you're listening live to us on YouTube or Facebook right now, just hold tight for a couple of seconds and we'll be right back. And we're back on Steelers Touch Down Under. I'm Matt Peverell, joined by my co-host as always, Marky Davison. Mark, just to cap that off with the dunce, Jeffrey Benedict contributes in the live chat. Akella Witherspoon, 4 snaps, 61 yards, and a TD given up. Yeah.
Oh, that was almost looks like he's playing receiver.
We would be very happy with that contribution on the receiving side.
4 snaps, 61 yards, and a TD. Oh, given up. Oh, okay.
He's pretty fast and he's pretty tall. You know what?
Yep.
This is it. I figured it out, right? I know Jeff, Jeff Hartman asked the question a lot during one of his Let's Ride shows this week. He asked a lot about Akella Witherspoon and why the Steelers got him, and the Steelers swung massively and missed massively. They didn't. This is all part of the Kevin Colbert, Mike Tomlin master plan. Juju's out. They've got a 6'2", whatever he is, cornerback who can read the play. I think he's got a 4.43, 40 or something like that. Let's make him a wide receiver.
Put him in, coach. Put him in.
At this point, could there be a worse stat line? I don't know, right?
I don't know.
Anyway.
You know what? I'm going to defend him for this one little bit. We're all ragging him out. Give him time. What if he comes out this week or next week and has an amazing game for 2 interceptions? Then we have to hold our, we have to take it all back.
No, we don't.
We don't have to. All right. Well, that's why I'm not saying anything.
It'll be a one-hit wonder. It'll be like MC Hammer.
I'm not saying this yet because he gave up the one play, and yeah, fair enough. He's not getting the helmet and stuff, but Witherspoon's a cool name.
Time out.
Who knows?
Jeffrey Benedict contributes in the live chat. Then he truly could be Deontay Moncrief.
Didn't the Deontay Moncrief, that one catch hit him in the helmet? Was that right? Is it the Charger game or something? That Mason threw in that ball when he went to catch it, hit him right in the head. Like got him a falcon.
The sad thing is that Deontay Moncrief isn't like before he joined the Steelers was not actually that bad a wide receiver. Like I don't know what was going on, and who knows what was going on in his personal life or what have you. But I just. Yeah, I still don't. I can't believe how badly that went. Was all I'm gonna say.
Yeah,
like that was just bad. Classic. All right, let's move on to slinging the slang. Just as Big Ben likes to sling the rock and slung it better last week, we like to sling the slang. Marky D, what have you got for the listeners this week? Do you have a word? What have you got?
Mine's easy this week. As I looked outside today, there's a bluebird sky. I don't know. I wanted to find out today if, in Australia we say, bluebird sky. I wanted to find out if that is really Australian slang or is that slang bluebird sky or, you don't really say it like that, but is it American slang as well? I don't know. So I really was wanted to go to a different angle and I thought it's a really nice day outside today. It's a, bluebird sky. It's awesome out there.
Well, we usually say it as well when it's skiing, like it's a bluebird day because it's like, sunny and really good snow and like, you're not having to battle the elements and what have you there. We also use bluebird sometimes in some business perspective where you get a bluebird when, you're signing a massive contract in a quarter. So your sales team kicks it off really well. So yeah, interesting that no one's heard of bluebird days. But yeah, if you're a skier or what have you, or even if you live somewhere where it snows, those days when it's beautifully sunny and, just the sun's glistening off the snow and it's not like horrible conditions. Yeah, that's how I usually, or people around me usually use bluebird.
Jeff says here, Jeff from Barnesville, no blue skies, but no birds. There's no birds near you, Jeff. What's going on? Not one bird? Come on, mate. What are you doing? Maybe so bluebird, like that must be an Australian slang then because people are saying it's not, they've never heard the term, which is we must have so many, Matty. We must have so many that we're not even thought about just yet. That's it.
Well, for this week, I had a bit of Australian saying, kind of fits with me, over the past week, and it kind of fits with the Steelers, and that's come good. Right. So come good means to recover well or, come back pretty well. And, I think the Steelers came back and turned out well. I've come back and hopefully I'm turning out well. I'll let the listeners be the judge of that one. But yeah, I just thought she's, as they say, she's come good.
Yeah, I like that.
A lot of you, if you're liking horse racing and they come around the corner and they're starting to hit the straight and take the lead, they're coming good. So I know that's not the best, from a grammatical perspective. But we do say, something's come good in Australia.
I say that a lot. It's kind of like when something really bad has happened with, she'll be right kind of like atmosphere.
Yeah, exactly. She'll be right. She's come good. How often have you
she's
heard
come
that?
Good. Like it just means that, something super bad can happen to you, like your car's on fire or something, and then someone put it out and you're like, oh, she's come good. It's all right. A lot of our things are like, it's like, stuff happens to us in that saying too. Stuff happens to us. And we always just think of the other side. We think so positively, like, oh, she'll be okay. It's fine. Like you fall over and you're like, oh, you bang your toe. And someone goes, didn't you break your toe 3 weeks? Oh, yeah, she's come good now. It's all right. Like we just don't care. We just move on. Just keep going.
And it's really interesting. I've seen a comment in the live chat that this gets demonetized in the US. And like, I think people are taking the different connotation with that phrase.
Oh, nah, come on.
I know.
2 a.m.
Do you know what's so funny, right? You know what's so funny is that, like, you look at American media and what have you, and, like, things like nudity and what have you are so frowned upon. But then, like, the language that's in some things and what gets away with, like, your music videos and stuff like that. I find this stuff I think everyone just keep it PG. Like keep it PG. COME. That's all I'm going to say.
To keep it PG, there are certain words that the Americans say about like rooting for a team.
Yes. Like when Dad does his rooting guide each week, I sit there and have a chuckle to myself.
That means completely different to me for what we say. So, don't go down that route with us. Okay. We could if we wanted to.
That they call the middle, in the back of your car, Mark, and you've got the middle seat, and in front of it, there's the little divider between the two leg spaces for legroom. Yeah, they call that the hump.
Well, even similar, I've got a mate who calls the back seat, right, in the car, the dicky seat. I should be allowed to say that, hopefully. It's called the I don't want to say it again, but that's what it's called.
Well, it's like we have a model of car down here called Commodore, and I had an uncle that used to call them the Condomidor.
Yeah, the American guys, there are some things that you guys say that we just laugh at and go, hang on, that means completely different to what we would say. And I think we're walking on a tightrope.
we are walking a fine line. But look, let's go to the super chat we've got, because we've got a lot to crack through in this last half hour of the show, and we're almost 10 minutes into it. But Felicia throws $10 in the tip jar. Thank you very much, Felicia. She says, here's to buying a few beers to my favorite M&Ms. We love that, Felicia. Hard on the outside and sweet on the inside. And hopefully that's what the Steelers are as well. And truly nuts for the Steelers like me. Here we go, Steelers. Oh, that's awesome, Felicia.
How good's that? And I love M&Ms. M&Ms are great. I had this old adage when I used to, when I was overseas, right? And I used to go, hike all the mountains, and I was in Canada and stuff, Canada. I took with me M&Ms because what better way to sit back on a mountain slinging beers and eating M&M Crispies on top of a mountain? That was my thing that I did.
I must admit, M&Ms are one thing I miss. I can't have them with the dietary issue that I have that you know about, Mark, and I suffer from it. And then also as a kid, even as an adult, and you go to America, you guys have those M&M factories, and you can get all the different colors and how much fun that is as well. We don't have that in Australia, so that's pretty cool. But look, let's move on to the Seattle Seahawks, Mark. Before I get into my sort of bits, what are you looking out for in this game? And I think let's talk about it from a team perspective, and then let's go into the usual. We've always got two players or two things to watch from each team.
I'm looking out for two things.
Yep.
Firstly, number one, you got to stop the run from Pete Carroll's team. Pete Carroll loves to run the football, except in big occasions where they throw the football and they lose. You should have run that ball, Seahawks. What are you doing? Why did you throw that ball? 2nd and 2. All you had to do was hand off to Marshawn Lynch for a game winner, and you threw the ball and the game away. But, however, Pete Carroll does love to run the football. So I'm interested to see what Alex Collins can do. I believe Collins was from the Ravens, because the other bloke, Chris Carson, is that his name?
Yeah, Chris Carson.
Yeah, he's a really good running back too. So you have another situation where you haven't got the starter there in the Seahawks team. So take advantage, take care of business, and stop the run. If we do our punts later, I might do a prediction for that. But you've got to stop that run because Seahawks football is around that. They're going to do play action pass. They're going to use Geno like that. They're going to run Geno with a bit of wildcat or whatever, or he's going to scramble. And they're going to run this football because that's really their offense. And depending if the DK Metcalf if he's out or Tyler Lockett, I
thought Metcalf. Yeah, I think Metcalf is eligible because I know Just Me brings it up. I thought I had seen that he is eligible.
I'm not sure, but that's part one. And part two is Geno Smith hasn't started the game in 4 years. He's 12-19 as a career starter. He's a 9-year veteran. Just take care of business, mate. Just win. You just got to beat him. What else? If I had, how good a pump up talk is that? Hey, TJ Watt, just win. Just it's Geno Smith, mate. He's not. Yeah. He's an average quarterback. I'll be very shocked. In our survival, the BTSC Survival League, I'm choosing the Steelers this week, and if we lose, I'll be filthy because Geno Smith's going to go down there and rock 3 touchdowns on us.
I'm interested how filthy you are. I was pretty filthy when I got knocked out on the Titans losing to the Jets.
Oh,
that was not a good time to be around that. that was a bad time.
That just shouldn't happen.
I completely agree with you. I think for me, a couple of things that I'm looking at is when the Steelers and the Seahawks are very similar, when both teams rush for more than 100 yards, and Dave talked about this brilliantly on these stats. Like, if they hadn't have, if Jesse James had been, well, he did catch that ball, if that had been ruled correct, and if you add in the draw, the Steelers would be like almost 40 games where if they've run for 100 yards, they've won the game. The Seahawks, where they've rushed for over 100 this season, they tend to win. When they don't, they tend to lose. They've got an average defense, and I think one of the things I'm looking out for is the Steelers' ability to run the football, because the Seahawks have actually only allowed a season low of 113 yards on opposing teams and a season high of 212 yards. So the O-line can put it together this week. I'm excited for what we can do. And you've seen that translate to first downs. So the Steelers this season have had a high of 21 first downs, which I'm pretty sure was last week, right? They're usually getting 17. They had 17 in 2 games, 19 in 1 game, 16 in another. But the Seahawks on the flip side have allowed a minimum of 23 first downs for the opposing offense, in 23 first downs in 2 games, 24 in another, 28 in another, and 33 in the other game. So for the Steelers this week, if you're sitting there and you're watching this game develop, particularly in the second and the third quarter, if the Steelers are going to win this game, regardless of what the score is looking like, you want to see the Steelers be getting first downs regularly. And realistically, that's going to have to come from the run. And we saw that shift, to more running last week. If you see that this week, particularly through that third quarter, as I said, regardless of what that score looks like, and obviously it's going to be closer, otherwise we're going to be throwing the football, but whether we're ahead or behind, that's going to show you where we're going to get some momentum. So the Steelers, for me, really need to capitalize on those two things, getting first downs, because the Seattle Seahawks defense is not very good at that. They're allowing a minimum of, 350 yards almost from their opposing, the opposing team's offense each game. But equally, you want to see them do that by making significant run gains as well.
Yeah, I agree. And a lot of these Seattle defense are really backing Geno Smith as well. They're saying, we do like his play, but we need to step up. Bobby Wagner is the kind of the guy that, is going to be hard to run against. But you're correct. The Seattle defense at the moment is 32nd in the league. And a big part of there, you think we're in trouble with our Steelers franchise. The big part of the Seahawks franchise is Russell Wilson, and he's out. His fingers gonskis. So, this is and the running back number 1, Carson. I think is it Alex Collins? I'm not too sure how I rate Alex Collins. Maybe he's a bit like Snell. I don't know. He played with the Ravens. He did a few things.
Anyone as bad as Snell?
Yeah, true. Why did I say that? There's the other guy, Homer. Like he's a third down kind of guy. Like gets out on the screens and that kind of stuff. Yeah. It's going to depend on putting pressure on Geno, which we have to any quarterback, and you just have to let Geno beat us, play outstanding, and you can't give him a gimme game. And this will be a hard game to watch and really feel as if played so well last week. And then if we go down early, for a 10-0 and we're playing really sloppy football, it just can't happen like that. You got to do the fundamentals. We have to start getting first downs. And, we are who they thought they were. We have to take care of business with the Seahawks. And it's this game, I'm all in this game. I'm not saying a blowout, but I think you have to win. This is the one where you need to win. Versus the Packers last week, sure, it's 50-50 or Packers were better. This game, it's an injured Seahawks team, and we don't know if Metcalf is playing. You've got to step up, and this is the one that I think they can, and put some style points on. Get the stats going up a bit. Where's your mate Highsmith been? What's going on with that?
Yeah, and one thing I would say that when you're looking out for this as well is Philip Dorsett's not done a lot this season, or I think he's done virtually nothing for the Seahawks. Watch him if Metcalf's playing. Watch Lockett. Everyone focused on Lockett and Metcalf, and look at Geno Smith hit him. I think Dorsett's up for a big game for this team. For the Seahawks side of things. But yeah, you talk about, and I think this goes into our punts of the week almost, but you talk about, Highsmith. Highsmith needs to step up this game, but I actually think the pressure's more on TJ. TJ, you signed that big contract. This is the game you need a couple of sacks, a forced fumble, get that turnover that shifts momentum in this game at a key point in time or on a second or third down, or as they're driving into, your red zone, 30 yards, etc., field goal range. So I actually think TJ also needs to step up, but TJ can't be doing it all, as you rightly said. Highsmith needs to step up as well. I think you also want, Ingram coming in and putting pressure. I was just going to say, you just want to have this wave, this constant horde. Like it needs to be Lord of the Rings, orcs, like going over the wall kind of thing. You just want to see those ladders, more guys coming over. Doesn't matter how many arrows you fire at them, they're just going to keep coming.
Is
back
that Lord of the Rings? I'm not a big fan of them.
Towers.
Number 2
Helm's
Tower.
Deep, the Battle of Helm's Deep. I love that
great.
one. When they're on that, on the ramp that's like the bridge, and they all three of them they get in and Orlando Bloom's like surfing on the shield and the dwarf guy's hanging off the back with his axe. Oh, that's
a fun. A lot of the Lord of the Rings can be a bit like stale and a bit like, the one part about the Lord of the Rings I hated the most when I was watching it was the number 3, where it took him about 45 minutes to drop the ring. And you're like, mate, just drop it. Just drop it now. Like, what are you doing? Just hurry up and get rid of it.
I'll tell you a funny thing about that. I went to the movies to watch that one, and I needed to go to the toilet. And you know how they all go for like 3 hours? And I needed to go to the toilet with about 40 minutes to go. And I was like, I can hold on here. And then they're getting about 20 minutes to go. I'm like, they're not wrapping this up in 3 hours.
No, I was the same.
Sat there for like another 45 minutes.
I was exactly the same. I had to go to the restroom as well, or to the dunny. And I was like, "Can you, Frodo, man? Like you're 4 feet away. Just sink it like a Kobe shot. Sink it, and then like the game's over. Like you had to draw that out. And then they give the ring, and then he goes back to like Gandalf's house for coffee for like 2 hours. Like it's just like, man, what are you doing to us? Like we had to go to. They must have known that everyone had to go to the bathroom.
Yeah, that's right. They're complete sadists. But look, listeners, you did not expect to get a rant about the Lord of the Rings franchise in a minute and a half, but that's what it is. The other thing for me is punt of the week. Let's get into this. I want to quickly get to some audience Q&A. But punt of the week for me, there are bold predictions, as we like to say. A punt in Australia means a gamble. It started off with some Jordanberry kicks, and it's hard to make any claims about them. But we've moved on from that from when we kicked off as a show. Over a year ago now, almost 18 months. But for me, Pat Freiermuth, TD. I think Canada uses him smart. Whether he gets a heap of receptions or a heap of yardage, doesn't matter. I think he's going to get a lovely red zone TD. And I'm feeling like, maybe those jet sweeps, but I think it's more likely to be a nice catch, high jump, over
the middle.
Over the middle. Come in. They're probably going to be 6 or 7 out from the line. He's going to cut in, maybe fend someone off, jump up there, high catch, beautiful touchdown. Maybe it's the second touchdown of the game as well, toward the back end or the middle of the second quarter. That's just what I'm feeling.
Also, too, if they're running the ball really well and, Bobby Wagner and the linebackers come in they pull the linebackers in as well. Bobby Wagner's a good player, but if he commits to the run, it doesn't matter if you do an RPO or play action, and then the next minute, Freiermuth, whoever he versus on the third corner, I don't even know who that is, doesn't matter. His size, he needs to get in this game, and it's a Sunday night game as well. It's a big game, a big spectacle, so I can see big things from him. My punt of the week this week is going on defense. I believe you have to get the running game less than 75 yards. Actually, no, 70 yards. Like no more than 70 yards running. Should I go further than that? Should we go 50? Was that too much?
I think it's, it's up to you. I sort of, it's your punt of the week, but I think they're going to get 70 on this team.
I'm going to say
I'm missing Alualu, and
we'll go right in the middle, less than 65 yards rushing by the Seahawks, because they're going to rush it. They can't get anywhere. Then they're going to go to JuJu Smith to try and move the football, and they're going to get into who do I go with, the run game or the receiving game, and hopefully they're down by points by then. So less than 65 yards. I think our defense will show up, and they need to stop the run so the Seahawks feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, I like it. And look, while everyone gets their questions ready in the live chat, because we're now going to go to audience Q&A, I think one thing I'd also say is that I think the Steelers need to step up and limit the passing yards. JuJu Smith can't throw for over 220. If he throws for under 220, I think they're going to be really hard pressed to win this game. So, but look, we'd love to answer any questions in the live chat. We usually got a few, but Mark,
Yep.
I'm going to ask you another question. I asked you earlier around is, who's having a better season, DJ or Claypool? Same on the cornerback position. I'm going to throw you an absolute doozy of a question. Is Sutton exceeding the expectations for him this season, or is James Pierre exceeding the expectations? They might be exceeding the expectations, but if they are, who is exceeding their expectations more?
I would say James Pierre.
Okay.
Yeah, just because he made some plays where he ran down the Williams guy from the running back. That was a good play.
Javonte.
Saved us great player. He saved us a touchdown there. And he's fighting back, like he's making mistakes, but then he's getting the interception and he's coming back with a game clinching win, So, but I want to ask you this question before we get some other ones. Will, what's happening with you? What do you think of Joe Hayden's play so far?
I think he's like, when he's out, you miss him. I think this whole defense, we talk a lot last year about when Devin Bush goes out and they struggle with the sacks, and then Bud Dupree goes out and they really struggle. And I think this season, like not having Tuitt, like how big a fan I am of Tuitt, right? I love Tuitt. I think that you got to think about the flow-on effect that had. Like you got to think of the offense and defense, right?
Yeah.
If you're missing a center or you're missing, a key tackle or the quarterback, and you start listing a tight end, less so much tight end, but a wide receiver, you start listing on a running back, there's some core players that you need. And you can go through it and argue for why every player is important. But there are some core players that you need. And the defensive side of the football, right? And you look at what Hayward does and what's able to do, and whoever's in that, right side, outside linebacker position. And like the integral nature of Tuitt, and then to have him missing, and then have Alualu missing, that has a flow-on effect for the rest of the defense, because then you need other people to step up. And so I think the piece for me with Hayden is that, obviously the way the secondary has to move now to create pass rush, to shut down things in the box, alters the way everyone plays. I think he's having a fantastic season. And I heard the rumor that the Cowboys were after him. He's going to try test the market. I personally think he's having a great season. I just, you might not have seen the interceptions that you might have hoped for yet, and I only think he's potentially one short there, from what you'd expect. I think he's having a good season, but I think it's like what we say with Minka. When you're in the secondary, there's a lot of things that you don't see that don't show up on the stat sheet that are really important to think about. So, he's allowing a much higher quarterback rating than he traditionally does this season, of like 121 versus like the last few years with Pittsburgh, where it's been like 72, 66 and a half, 75.9, but he's also allowing a lot less air yards this season, through 4 games that he's played. He's allowing a high completion rating, but he's also playing, a lot shorter depth of target. The only thing for me that I would say that I have noticed, and now I've seen it, I've been able to pull up the stat for it, he's missed almost 20% of his tackles.
Right.
I do worry about that. But then, of all the tackles that you miss, you need to go back and have a look at why you're missing them and why you're not. Are you being put in a compromising position? You're trying to do too much. What are you doing that's outside of what you should be? Have they thrown a shifty on you? Whatever it is. So, yeah, I guess my answer to your question is I'm not like, oh my God, Joe Hayden, but I'm not sitting there going, you're a Kelly Witherspoon, because he's not.
I feel the same with Joe Hayden. I think he's got, he's a great player. He's just having a very average few games, and he can always turn it around. I wanted to quickly answer this one from Portner Coenba. Yeah. He says, Mark, are all the barber shops in Sydney still closed due to the coronavirus? I'll answer that question with this statement. I won't be cutting my hair until Benny Snell gets over 100 yards.
That's
hands down.
Wild and woolly.
Nah, I'm only joking.
Short Nanahan says, Mark and Nat and Mark, how close do you follow the NFL as a whole? Any thoughts on the Raider email scandal? Any impact do you think possibly for our Steelers? There's so many emails not showing yet.
I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole.
All I'll say is that the language that is expressed across those emails is not acceptable to me personally, whether it's now or a decade or really at any given time. I think I'm a little bit more concerned about, well, not more concerned, but I'm interested to see what's handled out of what was going on with the Washington football team and that cheerleading scandal. That to me is very concerning. The other thing that's concerning is the piece around Adam Schefter and the editing of some of those articles. Now, look, a lot of journalists in any field work with media teams, of an organization or a politician or a brand or whatever to make sure they get facts right. There's no error there. The issue for me as well is why wasn't this handled before, right? The NFL is an organization that made, I think a couple of years ago, I'll just go to the stat that I saw, an $8 billion profit, right? Or had revenue of $8 billion. That's more than a lot of organizations. And in a lot of organizations, they're monitoring this stuff. How do we get here? That's the question for me. The other thing I think is, if anyone's got a right to say on anything, it's players that have played with him, coaches that have coached with him. Kyle Joseph had nothing but positive things to say. I'd love to know what Kyle Nassib thinks of this. Also, people can change in what they find and what they learn from experiences as well. And I think that's one thing, we talk about football players and adapting to change on the field. You need to adapt to change in life. There are things that you need to look at constantly. But what I would say is that, let it be dealt with. It's affected. And actually, the interesting insight that I'll give that I don't hear many people talk about, when I was listening to Move the Sticks this week with Bucky Brooks and Daniel Jeremiah, they talked about the impact that something like this has on the families of the coaches that have come in with Gruden, on those families of coaches that may be forced to leave now as a new regime comes in, and the kids that this affects. When Gruden put together his coaching staff, he pulled people from everywhere. And so all I would say is think about the impact that would have on the Steelers coaching staff, the Steelers organization if things came out. Now, you've asked a question there, Sean Manahan, as to whether there's things that involve the Steelers. Who knows? I hope that we come out clean from all of this. But look, I think things will roll out the way they roll out.
Just one thing in any case with emails in general. I remember one time when I sent an email to my boss, but I tagged every single person in it. Have you ever done that by accident? No. But I've not always, all of us need to be careful about. What I would say is, before you continue this story, Mark, is email is something. Sometimes you're better off picking up the phone because in email things can be taken out of context. Yeah, we so at work I had a problem with the boss, and it was a me and her issue kind of thing. I got sent an email about some issue at work, and then I expressed my views and my passion in this email, and I didn't realize that the email was sent to every single staff member and her. And then she was like, Mark, I like your view, and I understand you have a problem, but why did you have to send it to 80 staff? And I went, what do you mean? And I CC'd accidentally everyone, somehow, which was great. And then everyone's at work was like, hey, Mark, nice email. And I was like, how do you know? And they were tagged in it. So you got to be careful, But
I also hate when people do that too. They ask you for something they might be late for, and they tag you all your bosses in there. And it's like, hang on, you don't know the full story. I don't like that. People try that one on.
I just thought it was going to my HR boss, and we had this discussion about a problem, and yet it went to every single person, and then the whole staff and everyone at the club was like, "We appreciate your thoughts, Mark." And I'm like, "How do you know?"
Brian says, "Does anyone know if Tuitt is ready to return?" No. Well, the biggest marker is has he been the activation and the 21 days off the IR, and that hasn't happened yet. Felicia, I'm going to be mad as hell to see Benny Snail break out to be a beast when his rookie contract is over and get paid. That's so true. That's so true.
He's just got to step up. If he's number 2 for us, he needs to have a game. The next few games, he really has to do something.
Brian Brown says he's convinced Benny Snell is dirt on someone. How else is he still on the roster? Yeah, he's sent the good old Dan McCullers sent him the good old picks there of some of the coaching guys, the coaching staff. Wish they could have kept Connor as the backup. Not impressed. I don't know, but Connor didn't want to be the backup. Like I like the idea of giving Najee the room to do what he needs to do. You know, I think that helps in that confidence. I think Najee would be a professional about it anyway, but I think it allows Najee just to do his thing.
Before we start to end, Matty, is Etmac coming back this week, or is he waiting till next week?
I was trying to pull that up. I think they're going to wait for him
for the Browns game. Here we go. Oh, I can't get to. I'm so excited for that Browns game too. Oh, unreal.
Oh man,
can't wait. Matchmaker.
Brad Jewett says, my dad wants to know why Highsmith hasn't had his coming out party this year. I would say that let's think about this. Like, it's been 5 games. You know, he struggled as well. I think it was he missed 2 games, or was it 1 game? You know, I think with Highsmith too, you know, you're going to have your ups, you're going to have your downs on these sorts of things. And look at the Steelers as a whole. Isn't it like we've got like 10 sacks on the season? That's not Steelers football.
No, we're not playing how we normally play in that role, I guess.
Yeah. So I just temper the feel of him not living up to expectations is probably the best way to say it. I'm not sure if we've got any final questions to wrap up the show. You know, Brian says, you know, everyone is all about McFarland. He hasn't done anything positive for the Steelers either. True. But he hasn't done as many negative things or lack of thereof of any sort of production that Snell and Ballage have done. But I think with that, Mark, that wraps up this week's Steelers Touch Down Under. I'm Matt Peverell, joined by Marky D, Marky Davison. The show goes super quick as always. Mark, close us out.
Go Steelers!